This is Pastor Deborah Burks coming to you live from the Art Matters Show this evening. I am so glad that you have joined me. I look forward to speaking with you this evening. I was not with you on last week. However, I thought about you, I prayed for you, and I pray everything is going well for you this evening. I thank God for all that He's doing in this season, in my life, and in the lives of others. Can you believe that we are already in autumn, that today is the first day of autumn? I mean, I still want to do summer. As the commercial says, I don't want to put away my white. I want to wear white after Labor Day. I still want to do those things. But nonetheless, we're in a new season. And with the season comes all sorts of things, pumpkin spice and the Halloween candy and Christmas and all of those things and making plans for the holidays and things like that. So there's a lot of good that comes to the fall. One of the things that I like about the fall is the crispness in the air. That's one thing. And the other thing I like about the fall, excuse me, I like about the fall is the pretty colors in the leaves. Can you believe that things look so beautiful? Oh my goodness, it's just amazing how the colors are. God created things in such a way that the colors are just gorgeous. I mean, the oranges and the burnt orange and the brown and the hues of yellow, all those different colors, and nobody is painting them. It automatically happens. God designed it that way. And I thought about the fact that, a lot of times when you're riding through the mountains in the fall, and you're looking up at all the pretty trees that are up in the mountains and everything. And one of the things I always get excited about is the fact that it looks like a gardener is up there trimming all of the mountains, and because everything looks like it's arranged so perfectly. But if you get up on it closely, you'll find that everything is not perfect, but from a distance, it looks like it looks like it's perfect. And so a lot of times we don't realize that even in our own lives, when we look at ourselves closely, we see a lot of flaws and imperfections and different things going on in us, and it really makes us feel bad. It's like, wow, I have all of these imperfections. And as we learned last week in talking about the imposter syndrome, one of the signs of an imposter syndrome is a perfectionist. Of course, we know the other ones to be the explorer, the soloist, the person that wants to do everything by themselves, the natural genius, they just automatically know everything, and the expert. But that perfectionism is one that is like, wow, that's just amazing. That a lot of times people are strive to be perfectionists, but they don't call themselves perfectionists. But when you think about some of the things associated with being a perfectionist, you always want to do everything perfectly, and you beat yourself up when you don't get it right and when you don't do things perfectly. And so, as I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about even my own self, there's times where I beat myself up if I don't do an excellent job. If I don't get it, perfect. If I write a paper and there's a mistake, if I send an email and there's a mistake, I'm really hard on myself, because I think everything has to be just right. But one of the things that I'm learning is that there's a gift to having imperfections. And Dr. Brene Brown even wrote a book on it called The Gifts of Imperfections, that there's gifts to us not having to try to be perfect. And one of her quotes from her book says, understanding the difference between healthy striving and perfectionism is critical to laying down the shield and picking up your life, laying down the shield of perfection and picking up your life. Research shows that have, have perfectionism hampers success. In fact, it is often the path to depression, to anxiety, to addiction, and life paralysis. Now, who would think all of these things would be associated with perfectionism? But it's true because it gets you, you become so upset with yourself that you're not doing any, doing things perfect, yet you're not striving to be perfect, And God tells us He wants all of us to strive for perfection, but He wants us to strive to perfection in the things of God. In other words, to get it right. But He knows that there's no way that as long as we're on this earth, that we can be perfect. But we should be striving towards it, but it should not be a thing where we're so caught up in it that it's causing us bodily harm or spiritually or mentally. We're devastated because of perfectionism. So as I began to think about that and think about um, the fact that all of us at some time or another may feel this way. There are a lot of people that do, and they don't call themselves perfectionists, but they do get upset when they don't things right. And it's sort of like you have to ask yourself sometimes: do you constantly find yourself too wrapped up in your imperfections? A lot of times women especially go through this. I'm not the right shade of color. I don't have the right kind of hair. I'm not the right shape. I got a pimple on my face, or I wish I was this. I wish I was taller. I wish I was shorter, or I wish my feet weren't so big. I wish it was, and we think about it and we tear ourselves up. I wish I could write like so and so. I wish I could speak like so and so. I don't speak as well as I should. And so we're always putting all these things on ourselves when we're trying to um, understand that we're not perfect. We're not perfect, and God didn't create us to be. He created us with all of our flaws. He created us uniquely with all of our flaws and our imperfections. Good evening, Miss Cynthia. Bless you. Good to have you this evening. I see you, Breezy. Thank you. Yes, each of us have imperfections. Everybody has imperfections. However, many fight against their flaws, harshly criticizing themselves for not being perfect. There's a lot of pressure in society today to be a perfect person. When you think about it, a lot of times you look at um, if you're on social media or you're watching um, all of these different platforms of these beautiful, beautiful, beautiful women. Say, for instance, and it's like, gosh, I don't look like any of them. Well, you don't have to look like them, but there is a lot of pressure in society to be a perfect person. Unfortunately, this doesn't is just isn't possible. So a lot of times we end up feeling like a failure or develop feelings of not really liking who we are or who God created us to be. And we should always be thankful for who God created us to be, because He didn't make no mistakes when He created us. Where it was Him that decided what we were going to look like, what our hair was going to be like, what our skin was going to look like, our size, whatever it was. He created us, so He is responsible. Our parents, were part of the makeup and our DNA and our genes as far as putting us together with certain things. But God created us just the way that He wanted us to be. And one of the things that interferes with perfectionism is loving ourselves the way that we are. And a lot of times we find that we struggle with loving ourselves because we want to be perfect. This perfectionism gets in the way. But in order to really love ourselves, we have to embrace our perfections. We can't say I love myself, but I hate the way I look, or I hate this, or hate that. I can remember when I was coming up as a little girl, I grew up with bad eyesight. And as a young girl in elementary school, I started wearing glasses in elementary school. And I hated it. I hated the fact that I had to wear eyeglasses because my eyes were bad and I had to wear thick eyeglasses. And so I had to listen at them tease me and call my glasses ice cubes or Coca. She got on Coca-Cola bottles and things like that. That's when Coca-Cola used to come in a bottle. So I'm dating myself. But I was so glad when I was finally able to get contact lenses, and I swore that I never would wear glasses again. But when you know it, now we're wearing glasses. So it's nothing to wear glasses, and people don't look at you the same way anymore. But those kind of things. And so that was an imperfection that really, really affected me. But when you start to embrace your imperfections, you'll start to see them in a positive way. Believe it or not, there are some positives to imperfections. For example, if you suffer with anxiety, you may beat yourself up for not being able to do certain things that come easy to others. However, a positive of anxiety is that it often makes you more empathetic. Wow. That is a great trait to have in an often cruel world. See right there. Flaws are also considered more attractive than you might realize. So start to look for the positive in your flaws and realize that everybody has a flaw. Everybody has something. No matter who the person is, you might look at that person and you might feel that they're sharper than sharp, that they have the best, they got it going on, but they have some flaws. They have some imperfections somewhere. You may not be able to see them physically, but they're there. Flaws are also considered more attractive than you might realize. So we got to learn how to look at them. When you're so caught up on your imperfections, it can make you feel trapped under constant pressure. By embracing them, it helps you to set you free. Nothing is more freeing than living your life without the constant weight of your own expectations. Once you accept your flaws, you'll feel like a weight has been lifted, right? To do this, focus on who you are. When you are so focused on your imperfections, it can stop you from being who you truly are. It causes you to chase an ideal that you aren't ever going to live up to. However, when you let go of your imperfections, your authentic self, you will start to shine through. So if you feel like you have lost who you wanted to be, start letting go of your need to be perfect. And that's what I really want to talk about tonight. The pressure to be perfect is great, but we've got to learn to how to let it go so that we don't always feel like we got to be perfect at doing this, we got to be perfect at doing that, or we got to be perfect at doing the other. We got to let things go so that we can um, understand that God has a plan for us. God has a plan for our life. And so we want to make sure that we look at it as, I'm just sharing this right quick. Okay. Yes. So we got to stop thinking that we got to be perfect. When you stop trying to be perfect, Cynthia says, I understand when I was in eighth grade, I was told I was ugly. See, and it took a long time to get over it, right? Because we look at other people and think that they're perfect. And people got all kinds of flaws. You might see somebody with a beautiful hairstyle, and you might say, I wish my hair looked like I wish I had hair like that. And then you know that anybody can have hair like that. You just go to the store, go to the hair store, and buy it, put it on your head. You'd have it. So it is those kind of things can stick with us, and then they can keep us from becoming who we really are meant to be. Because as I talked about earlier, it can put you in a depressed state, and you don't want that to happen. You don't want to be depressed about who you are and different things like that. So, you got to learn how to let go of some of that. So, you don't want it to stop you from being who you are. When you focus on your imperfections, it causes you not you aren't going to live up to. Oh, however, when you let go of your imperfections, your authentic self will start to shine. As I said earlier, you know, um, you don't want to ever feel like you've lost who you are. You want to know who you are. And that comes through accepting yourself, not trying to accept anybody else, but it just accept it. You have to learn how to say, Lord, I accept me for who I am. God created me to be me, and I'm going to accept myself for who I am. I'm not going to try to be somebody else. One of the things that I know a lot of people don't follow Lizzo, and I'm not really a Lizzo follower, but I like her philosophy in loving the skin that you're in. And she's teaching the big girls, she's teaching the bigger, loving the skin that you're in. Because a lot of times um, people can be humiliated, by being talked about or different things like that, because they're not the same size as somebody else. But learning to love and accept yourself is so, so very, very important. There are a lot of people that are trying to be something that they're not because they want to be perfect. Okay. The sad part is they aren't aware that this is even happening. They keep pushing forward, but ultimately it doesn't measure up. So they feel incomplete, flawed, or weak. What's the root cause of all of this? The idea of perfection. The idea of perfection. Always remember, and write it in the comments. I'm going to write it. But you remember this. You write it too. You don't have to be perfect. You need to put that in the comments. You don't have to be perfect. Nobody has to be perfect. And there are some mindsets that crush our potential to learn how to deal with our imperfections, to learn how to deal with those things that are not perfect within of us. Because nobody is perfect. Nobody. And a lot of times if you scroll in Facebook, social media has really messed a lot of people up as far as trying, them thinking that I gotta be perfect because I'm looking at so and they're perfect. You can look at a picture of somebody and it looks like, wow, they are so beautiful. But you don't know what's behind that picture. You have no clue as to what's behind that picture. You don't know what how can I put it? You don't know all of the little tips and tools and different things that they use to make that picture. That's right, Miss Cynthia. Only God is the only one that's perfect. And so we've got to learn that. But let's look at these 8 mindsets of imperfection that causes us, the 8 mindsets of perfection that really cause us some problems. Okay. But we are now at the point where we have to learn how to embrace our imperfections. Are you a person that always has to be in control? Mm. Do you think everyone cares about what's going on in your life? Does everyone look up to you for support or standard? Do you believe your parents and loved ones will not be happy if you're not perfect? Do you feel like you always have to be better than others? Do you believe people care if you fail? Happiness is a destination. And do you believe that what other people think about you is more important than what you think about yourself? Ah, you have to understand how these things lead to unhappiness, frustration, and a sense of lack of control. Why? Because you're more worried about what somebody is thinking. I was reading an article today and it was talking about the fact that there are so many times that you be thinking that people looking at you and people talking about you and think people thinking certain things about you, and you forget all about the fact that they not thinking about you. They got their own lives. You're not on their minds 24/7 as you might think. So you have to learn that the best thing that you can do is choose to accept who you are. Self acceptance is crucial to personal contentment. Self acceptance means understanding our limits. Self acceptance means choosing your base of strength and competency, but limits can be transcended. You have to learn how to accept the limits now with the understanding that growth means transcendence. So as you go, you transcend. So you have to accept that. Self acceptance says you have to push back against the walls of your comfort zone. Mm. Because, see, the comfort zone will hold us in where we can't do anything and we just want to stay in that mindset. And maturity is defined by how far you progress from your base of strength and competency. So these are things that you have to learn to accept yourself. You have to say it, write it in the chat, write it in the comments. I accept myself. I accept myself for who I am. I accept myself for who I am. I don't have to be somebody else. I can accept myself for who I am. And when you learn to accept yourself for who you are, a lot of times you'll find that the pressure will leave you. The pressure to be perfect, the pressure to prove to somebody that who you are. Just accept yourself for who you are. Yes, accept yourself. Don't feel like you gotta um, try to be somebody else. Because sometimes people can really like get under your skin, so to speak, when you see them trying um, to be somebody that they're not. And we've seen people like that. And you'd be like, you don't have to do all of that. Stop being extra. Just be yourself. Just be who God created you to be. And you will find when you start doing that, when you accept who you are, others will accept you for who you are. I'm going to say that again. When you accept who you are, other people will accept who you are. The next thing that you want to do is you have to understand that only you can fully accept yourself. Sometimes I've heard people say in couples, a woman may say, my man completes me. He shouldn't complete you because you should be complete before he come into the picture. You don't wait for others to complete you. God has already put you together the way he has wanted you to be. So you don't have to wait for somebody else to complete you. Depending on others to complete you leaves you incomplete. You see that? And dependent. Depending on others to complete you will leave you incomplete and dependent. So you have to step up. So fully accepting yourself means I'm responsible for my life. I am responsible for my life. Only me, I'm the only one that can know myself fully. I'm the only one that can know me fully. I have to accept myself. I'm responsible for me. And use this information to accept yourself. Warts and all, anything that's going on, whatever you got, whatever it is, you learn to accept yourself. I'm always amazed that when I watch shows like Special Olympics, when I watch the Special Olympics, and I see people who have um, endured devastating circumstances. But the thing that I really love about watching them is that they have no limits. They've accepted the fact that this is my condition. And because this is my condition, I don't have to be perfect, but I can be the best me that I can be. And that's what you always want to do. You don't have to be perfect, but you just have to, I can complete me. I'm a total package whatever it is that I have. You know, I have three sisters, and I'm the short one in the group. I'm one. I don't know when God was giving out height. I don't know where I was. Probably somewhere reading a book, but I didn't get the height like my sisters got. You know, so I always have to go through the process of when I buy clothes. I always have to hem them. I have to hem my skirts and I have to hem my pants because everything is always too long. But I don't complain about it. I accept it for who I am. We have to understand that self acceptance is crucial for self respect and self love. Self acceptance is crucial for self respect and self love. Self respect leads to personal boundaries and autonomy. When you have self respect, it's hard for others to take advantage of you. Why? Because you respect yourself. You have respect for yourself. It also becomes harder for others to abuse you. And then there's self love. Self love leads to mastery. Self love will help you to discover your passions. What is it that you're passionate about? What is it that you really love doing? You know, self 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 love helps you to discover what true pride is all about. You know, you're not prideful, but you're proud in the fact that you're able to accomplish certain things, that you're able to achieve your achievements and your successes. You're not focused on your failures. Your failures are a part of your destiny, but you are able to look at your successes. And so self-love helps with that. And self-love helps you to discover competence. And self-love helps you to develop a healthy identity, which is so important. So as you can see, as we're talking about all of these things relating to how to deal with our imperfections, how to embrace our imperfections, we find out that it's like, wow, who would have thought that all of this could come from me just embracing who I am, just learning how to embrace who I am and not being upset because I'm not like somebody else. Because He treated each all of us. He created us differently. Another key thing to self acceptance is letting go of perfectionism, just letting it go. Perfection is a standard, not a destination. Ooh, I need to say that again. I'm going to write that. Perfection is a standard, not a destination. And think about it. Perfection, you trying to be perfect is not going to get you nowhere. Okay? It's not a destination. Perfection is not even a commodity. All you have is who you are now and your standards. Your standards are supposed to lift you up, not beat you down. So let go of others' expectations if they don't line up with the identity you want for yourself. Now let's think about that for a minute. Now, I said, let go of other people's expectations. One of the things that we struggle, that causes us to struggle with perfectionism, is that we worry about other people's expectations of who we are. And that's not our concern. Okay? We can't be concerned if their expectations don't line up with our identity. that we want for ourselves. No, it's not about what their expectations. It's about who we think within ourselves that's important, not what they line up with, not what somebody's expectations are. Because people can have expectations of you, okay? And if you're not careful, you'll be trying to live up to those expectations. You'll be trying to be perfect and live up to their expectations. Even if you're raising children, you can have expectations for them, but they may not always live up to your expectations. Why? Because you got to accept them for who they are and not be so focused on that. Then the other thing that you want to do is just honestly acknowledge your flaws. What are some of your flaws? Think about it. Think about some of your flaws. What are some of your weaknesses? Yeah, we all got them. But what are your flaws? You have to acknowledge them and embrace them. You gotta accept them. You can't feel like, oh Lord, I'm dealing with this, or I'm dealing with that, and I got this wrong with me, and I got that wrong with me, or whatever. You gotta learn to embrace your flaws. Why? Because you're who God created you to be. Another thing that you have to think about: are you considering these flaws because other people told you that they were flaws? People can point out things about you. Yeah, they can point out things about you, but is that really being truthful to who you are, listening to what somebody else is saying? Huh? Is that going to hold you back from anything? Do you understand that when you listen to what other people are saying about you, that puts you in a situation where um, it may cause you to hold back on doing or becoming or succeeding? Why? Because you're looking at them and they're pointing out what they consider as flaws, and they may not even be flaws. Don't let other people prevent you from reaching your fullest potential. Don't allow other people to keep you from reaching your fullest potential. Why? Because when you accept who you are, I am accepting me for me. I don't have to be perfect. I'm not going to dot every I and cross every T. God is not expecting me to be perfect. God just wants me to do the very best that I can. Because when I embrace my imperfections, when I learn to love me for me, when I accept me for me, it shows other people that they can do the same thing. One of the things that we have to be careful of is apologizing for our flaws. You know, a lot of times it's very difficult for a woman to take a compliment. You give a woman a compliment and she gonna pick it all apart and like, oh, this old dress, I had this in the back of my closet. I ain't worn it long time. Oh, these shoes. I found these shoes on Macy's and I had coupons and so. And I wound up only paying $7.39 for these. Didn't nobody ask you all that. Don't apologize for your flaws. And if you have flaws, don't blame yourself. Don't blame others. Understand that stopping self blame is different from taking responsibility. Remember, we talked about that earlier. You always want to take responsibility. Stop waiting for something to happen for you to change. Ooh, be the change. Stop waiting for something to happen. If there's a change that needs to be made, just make the change. But stop waiting for things for some. Stop waiting for that, okay? We're not apologizing for my flaws. This is me. Take me as I am with all of my flaws. One of the things that we can do is we can learn how to turn our flaws into assets. How can you turn your flaws into assets? We can turn our flaws into assets by changing our mental habits. Yeah, you can turn your flaws into assets by using it to your advantage. Use it as a good thing, not as something negative, but turn it into a positive, whatever that flaw may be, whatever that imperfection is that you may have. You know, learn how to use it for your good. Don't always think about it being that it's so terrible that I can't use it for any good. So we got to understand that when we talk about being a perfectionist, when we talk about perfectionism, we're talking about limiting ourselves from all that we can do by wanting to be perfect, limiting myself from being who I can really be because I'm so focused on trying to be perfect that I'm leaving out all of the things that I am good at, that I do know how to be. Because perfectionists like to please, okay? They like to please. They got to get it right. But we don't have to do that. God didn't call us to be like that. We got to learn how, just because certain things um, happen to us, it doesn't have to be the rest of our life that we have to go through and struggle. So we got to learn how to do that and learn with just accepting. I think I think one of the greatest things that a person can learn how to do is accepting yourself. Learning how to accept who you are with all of your flaws, with all of your um, understanding that you are the way that you are. And when you accept yourself, you start loving who you are. Can you imagine what that's like? Just really loving who you are. When you accept yourself, you become content with the skin that you're in. You got to know that you are special. You weren't made the way that you're made by mistake. Your beliefs, your likes, and your dislikes are all part of a magnificent design. So you have to learn how to look on the bright side. Oftentimes, you may feel that someone else's situation is better than yours because they have more, seem to be happy, or appear better off than you. But if you take a moment to look at the circumstances of others who are less blessed than you are, you'll realize that there is actually a bright side to your life. Accepting yourself with all of the flaws. Oftentimes, you may feel that someone is better, but if you look at the circumstances, you'll find that you may know. Do you know anyone who couldn't find work for so long that they've given up on it? Is there anyone around you who's suffering the pain of losing a loved one? When was the last time you noticed how many homeless people live under the freeway? Those are things to think about. So when you're accepting yourself, you're learning to let go of certain things, certain hindrances in your mind of things that you're feeling about yourself, and recognize that you know what? When God created me, He created something beautiful. He created me different for a reason so that I can shine, so that my light could shine, so that I could be bright, so that I didn't have to be like everybody else. So I thank God for that. That even now, as I embrace my imperfections. And I want you to think for a minute. Think about some of those imperfections that you may have, that you may consider is an imperfection. Let's say, for instance, We always talk about Miss Cynthia. Miss Cynthia is a wonderful baker, and we know that Miss Cynthia is a wonderful baker. But let's say, for instance, I could call one of my imperfections the fact that I cannot bake like Miss Cynthia. I shouldn't focus on that. I should focus on what I can do. Mm. I should focus on what I can do. I should focus on what I can do. I say that more than once because so many times we focus on the wrong things when it comes to accepting who we are and embracing what God has created us. And when you take some time, I want you to take some time after this video. I want you to take some time and just write down what some of your strengths are. One of the things, some of the things that you know how to do. Don't focus on what you can't do, or don't focus on the fact that you're not perfect or that you have flaws. Focus on what you do know how to do. Let those things come to the forefront, because when you start letting those things come to the forefront, you begin to um, the, the 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 juices begin to flow, and you become excited about who you are and the fact that God created you and He created you different, and you don't have to be like somebody else. And so you celebrate that. The more you be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm imperfect here, but I know how to do this. I know how to do this. I know how to do this. And God has gifted us. So you want to focus on those things and celebrate the things that you know how to do and work on that. And that gets you excited. That makes you feel like, you know what? I can do such and such. I could do this, that, or the other. Okay. The more you focus on what you can control, the stronger and better you get. I'm going to say that again. The more you focus on what you can control, the stronger and better you get. Stop defining yourself by what you should be doing. Stop defining yourself by what you should be doing. I'm going to say that again. Stop defining yourself by what you should be doing and celebrate what you are doing. Mm. Because if you focus on what you should be doing, you're going to feel like I'm a failure because I haven't done it yet. But don't focus on that. Don't let that be the focus. Don't let that be the thing that you're thinking about. Focus on what you are doing. And I'm pretty sure that what you're doing is making a difference, not only in your own life, but also in the lives of other people. You're making a difference. And that's what you want to do. Finally, we're going to be closing in a few minutes. Finally, learn to move on. Let's not just focus on our imperfections. They're part of us. They make us who we are. You know, when it comes to the gifts of imperfection, it reminds me of the scripture in the Bible, Romans 8:28, that says, all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord and are called according to His purpose. All things work together. So, whatever imperfections you have, whatever flaws you have, it's all working together. They are all a part of who you are that make you unique. Everything that you are, it makes you unique. So, the final thing is, don't stay stuck on your imperfections. Celebrate them and move on. Accept the fact that sometimes life is unfair. Accept the fact that life has its own schedule. Accept the fact that you can't always get what you want when you want it. And sometimes that can bother you a little bit. but learn to accept what you can create and what you can influence. And move on by focusing on what you can create, what you can control, and what you can influence. Because that's really freedom. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me this evening for another time. This has been Heart Matters with your host, Deborah Burris. I thank you all for joining me this evening in this topic on the gift of imperfections. And I pray that you understand that you don't have to be perfect, that you celebrate your flaws. Stop focusing on, the things that you may consider a flaw. You don't have to be like somebody else. God created you unique. And when you understand it and just learn to love yourself for who you are, everything else will fall into place. I'm so glad that you all have joined me this evening. We've come to the end of a perfect day. Why do I call it the end of a perfect day? Why? Because everything that God makes is perfect. Everything that you went through today may not have been perfect. Hello. But it was a perfect day nonetheless. So as you prepare to go to bed tonight and close your eyes, you can thank God for this perfect day. And I'm pretty sure that something in the course of the day that you can give God thanks for. So I pray that you have a successful week. I pray blessings upon you and your family. I pray favor and increase. I pray that you learn to love yourself for who you really are and not feel like you've got to be like somebody else. I pray that you fall in love with you, because once you fall in love with you, you will attract the right people around you. So uh, stay safe, be good. And as I always say, I love you. Thank you for being here, Miss Cynthia. I love you. I love you, but God loves you best. And always remember that your heart matters. Peace